Welcome, everyone. We have a treat today by Joan. He wrote the Quill to Blender add-on. So, Joan, take it away. If you can give a quick intro about yourself, and then let's dive straight in.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Joan. I'm a software engineer, and basically, VR drawing is probably my favorite hobby. Okay, so this is just to show a little bit the scene. It's not too complicated. Not very optimized, but it's just a scene for illustration purposes. Okay, I'm back in Blender. The add-on is available on extension.blender.org, which means you can get it from inside Blender. You go to Edit Preferences and get Extensions. And from here, you can search in the search bar. You can search for Quill, and it will show up in the list here. And from there you can install, and it will install. Here I already have it installed. I did publish a new version yesterday to fix an issue that I found while preparing this talk. Hopefully it doesn't blow up in my face, as is tradition during the demo. We'll see. Once you have it installed, the only place where you actually interact with the add-on is from File Import to import a Quill scene, and from File Export to export to a Quill scene. There's no other places really where there is a UI that is specific to the add-on. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to import the scene that I was running before. So here are import options that I will go through later, but basically you select the folder where your Quill scene is, and you click on whatever file, doesn't matter. It can take a while to load. Basically right now it's reconstructing the Quill scene to a mesh. If it's super complicated, or if there's animation and lots of frames, it will take quite a while to load everything.
I experienced that. Tried to import some ginormous scenes.
Yeah.
It took a while, yeah.
So the goal of this first, the goal of the import is to try to reconstruct your scene exactly as it was in Quill. It will configure the viewport to make something that looks as much as possible as what we have in Quill. So there are some options that you can play here. Right now I'm in solid view. And from these options up here, you will see how it has configured the Blender viewport with flat lighting, and color from attributes, so from vertex colors, and the background from the background color in Quill. The idea of this is that if you remove the overlays, so these guys, then it should be pretty much exactly what we see in Quill. Like, that's the goal anyway, in terms of color and for animation, I'll talk about it later. Yeah, so basically, one thing you can do as well is, let me show this again, and from this here, from this guy, you can show the wireframe, and that should be a match with whatever we had in Quill. So yeah, some of these strokes are really not optimized, but anyway, that's just for demonstration. Also, it's not really going to be a tutorial about Blender, so I activated the keys on the lower left here. So if you're watching this after and there's something I'm doing that maybe I go a little fast, you can always check these keys to see what I'm doing. I'm going to keep this. So every layer from Quill has been converted to an object. The group layers have been converted to empties, which are basically the nodes in the hierarchy of the Blender scene graph. So this here is one paint layer that we had in Quill. And yeah. Let me switch to material mode. So in material mode, there is some lighting from Blender, but essentially, sorry, let me just remove the wireframe. But yeah, so as I mentioned, the goal of the import function is to try to reproduce the Quill scene as closely as possible. From there, it's up to you to do something else with it if you're going in this direction. So I just want to show just a few things that you might want to do or to start working with the file. So when it converts the scene, every object gets the same material. The material is shared by everyone. It's just a very simple material that I'm going to show you right now. That's the material. It's super simple. It's just to get the vertex colors. Since every object has the same, like the shared material, if you want to change the material of only one object, you go to that object, and in the material, here you will see vertex colors. Here you have number 8. There are 8 objects that are sharing this material. If you click on this, it's going to make a copy specifically for this object. And now we are looking at the material for this object specifically. So if I were to change, maybe set this to just a solid color. Now I have this guy specifically. So I just changed the material for this one specifically. Something else I wanted to show real quick, if I go back to wireframe, and maybe you want to do something with one stroke, there is a little trick. If you go to edit mode and you select just one vertex on one stroke, then if you go to selection and you do select, select linked, then it will select that stroke in particular, because it's an island of polygons, right? It's disconnected from the rest. So that's a way to select one stroke. Yeah. If you wanted to maybe apply one material to a specific stroke or a group of strokes, or maybe you want to, I don't know, maybe you want to subdivide this stroke in particular, or you want to delete it, or whatever. It's just a way to
That's useful.
select.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about the way it retains some information about the Quill scene, but the mental model here is that you have converted this to a mesh. So now it's a mesh in the Blender sense, and it doesn't have any Quill information at the stroke level. So yeah, if we go to edit mode and we move that stroke somewhere else, then yeah, at this point it's basically geometry in the 3D traditional sense. So yeah, you could split them to separate meshes. You could do whatever you can do on regular meshes in Blender. Let me move this back one. So things you could do. I'm not necessarily an expert on this side because I don't often no longer do much stuff on the Blender side. But yeah, let's try. Yeah. So for example, yeah, one thing you can do is with this object, you can apply a modifier, maybe a subdivision modifier. Where is it? And oh yeah, this only shows up, I think, in, well, that's not the most. So let's take this guy and subdivision. Right. Right. So this is now much more divided. So it's still the same, the original polygons that it's showing, but the shape is much smoother. If you're going in this direction, it's, so I don't want to say it's a one-way direction, but if you start to modify the geometry, it's a one-way direction. So if you make subdivision, or if you paint, if you texture paint, if you sculpt, that is something we can use sculpt mode. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have. Oh, there's the Dino topo. That might be better. Yes. Oh, yeah. That's, yeah. Forgot about this. So because it's using vertex colors, if you do sculpting with dynamic topology, it's going to lose the vertex colors. So in that case, you will have to texture paint the whole thing, or do not use dynamic topology if you want to sculpt this. So in that case, you probably want to keep the geometry fairly high poly count in Quill before you import it. I want to talk a bit about UVs. If by default it doesn't import any UVs, let me show maybe I can show the spreadsheet. It's just the vertex colors and the vertices. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete the whole thing. So delete hierarchy. This we don't need anymore. Oops. And I'm going to import it again. But this time here, I'm going to select Smart UV Project. This means that it's going to import just as before, but for every object, it's going to run the Smart UV project of Blender. Let me go back to this. When we go to UV editor, now we have, okay, maybe, yeah. Now we have UVs that are usable for texture painting, which is not.
So is this something you generate, like during the process, or is it something that Quill spits out? Because Quill has
so Quill, right? you can export UVs in Quill, but they don't look like that. They're all basically, each stroke gets its own space on the UV, so they're all together.
Yeah, that's another interesting thing about Blender is Blender cannot read the second UV set that Quill exports. So Maya has access to both. So there's
Okay.
like two maps, right? And the second map is actually useful for, when you have like grab tool animation where you have deformation animation that you export out of Quill. But for some reason, I wasn't able to. I tried so many ways, but I can't access it through Blender. So this is very useful, what you have here, because this is, I think, basically the substitute for what
Yeah.
for the second UV set that Quill has.
Yep. The first UV set is just running the V direction of the UV along the stroke, and so they're all the strokes at the same place. So with this one, you can actually do texture painting on this one.
So if you have if you animated it with a grab tool in Quill, right, and you exported a frame by frame animation, and you texture this. So for example, you put like a noise shader on that object that you imported. Are you saying that it will no longer slide on the mesh? Like that was always the issue that I had with Blender, that the texture swims because it doesn't know that the object is moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is a good question. I haven't tested this in a while.
Okay, I'll give it a shot.
We can test it later when I import something that is animated. The thing is, there is a big difference when you import as an alembic, and it has constant topology, and it knows, so you can do your UVs on the first frame of animation, and then it keeps for the rest. Whereas if we import as separate drawings, it's going to I don't think that will not swim, because it's going to import every drawing separately. So it's going to run the Smart UV project on every piece of geometry separately, as if they were completely different drawings.
Oh, I see. Like so it might flicker or swim because it's not going to be identical, right?
Yeah, it's going to rerun its Smart UV project algorithm. It will find a different angle for every polygon in the new version of the mesh. So it's going to organize them differently.
I see. Okay. That kind of answers my question then.
And so you could texture paint from this. Let's import animation. So, okay, I have another dude here. So this one is animated.
And it's frame by frame animation, right?
Yes. So let me show you. So the body has only one frame. Then we have a bunch of stuff on 4-frame loop. Mm-hmm. The legs are on an 8-frame loop, and the wings are on a 14-frame loop, I think. So it doesn't even align. So there is the loop above is here at the 56 mark. But that's just to show how it's going to import in Blender. Then there is a sequence above it with some transform keyframes that are just to do a little hover motion.
Up and down,
back and forth. And then there is another sequence above that does the looping of the transform keyframes. I did this to show what doesn't work. So from this, what works is the one frame, obviously, which is looping it's not looping, it's just a single frame. The loops on the individual frames, like the 4-frame loop. Save. Let me switch back to Blender. And we don't need that. Right, so that's our little guy. I'm going to hit play. So it's the same animation, except you might have seen it, but basically, so if I drill down here, that's the layers that I showed earlier. One thing to note is that when we import in Blender, the order is going to be alphabetical order. So unfortunately, it won't keep the order of the layers from Quill. But what I wanted to show is that the animation, the frame-by-frame animation, should be the same as what we have in Quill. Most of the things work. Most of the frame-by-frame animation work. Clips will work. Visibility spans on groups will work. And transform keyframes on objects will work. What doesn't work is when you have transform keyframes that are inside a sequence. And for example, what I did earlier in Quill, I have that hover animation made of transform keyframes, right? And I want to loop the whole transform keyframe animation. So I put it in a sequence and then I looped the sequence. That currently doesn't work. Basically, the hover layer, which was my sequence, my first inner sequence layer, it gets the transform keyframes, but it only gets one set of transform keyframes.
So would it be safe to say then what it's doing is it's just not respecting sequences, but just making groups out of them? Like treats them like
not
groups?
really. It does respect sequences. If you make a sequence and you make it loop, so for example, we had that sequence, it's still looping the whole animation underneath. So it's still looping the frame by frame animation. It's just that, the sequence are respected.
Keyframes, but the keyframes are not. The sequence loop is respected, but doesn't apply to keyframes.
Yes, because keyframes inside sequences are much trickier to handle. Because, for example, to give an example, you could have a clip in your sequence that is starting at the middle of your underlying animation, and maybe the transform keyframes are starting before that clip is starting. So maybe you have to start the interpolation between the keyframes should be starting in the middle. It's a mess. It's very much. It's more complicated.
It can get very complicated.
It's complicated to interpret. It's complicated to. I don't think it's actually possible to fully reproduce it with just like the same type of keyframes, like sparse keyframes like that. The way I plan on supporting this in the future is to have a different mode where you import and it calculates wherever the interpolation between the keyframe is at that frame and creates one keyframe everywhere for every frame corresponding to whatever the value for that transform is at that moment, which means
baking it, right?
Baking, pretty much baking.
Okay, one question I had about the keyframes that you have here is like I noticed when I import with your add-on that all keyframes don't respect the ease in, ease out, right? They become linear interpolation. Is that correct?
They should. If they don't, it's a bug.
Okay, so
they should,
so I think even here it looks like it's linear, the motion. It goes back and forth without ease in, ease out. If I'm not mistaken, it looks like it's a constant movement. See? It doesn't slow down, right?
Yeah, they're pretty...
Can you play it back?
Yeah, but
because in Quill it was smooth, right? In Quill it was like you use the ease in, ease out. See, this is linear.
Yeah.
Right?
You're right. I'll double check that. I think it's probably looks to be a bug. It's normally what it should do is use the Blender equivalent to the Quill interpolation selected. So there is.
Yeah, I think in Blender, I think the issue, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in Quill it's not really animation curves, right? It's just speed that changes, versus Blender treats it with curves, right? So maybe there's a translation issue there. You know what I mean? Like in Quill, you don't have access to any graphs or anything. Like the ease in, ease out will always work the same. Yeah, see how in Blender you have the curves? And it's linear, right?
Yeah, it's linear.
So,
but it's a bug. When I initially implemented it and tested it, it should work. Basically.
Awesome! So they become like flat tangents, right?
Well, normally it's supposed to work. Basically, you select this and you go somewhere here and you select. I don't remember which one. But basically linear and then ease in quadratic. I think I set it to quadratic and the other one was I don't remember exactly, but I think this is fixable. This point is fixable.
Oh, cool. That would be awesome. Like I've been avoiding keyframes because of this.
Okay. And let's wrap it up for this part. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was the grease pencil. Let me switch back to this. And let me do this. So, let me actually get rid of this guy in case I export it. So if you've never tried, for people that have never tried Grease Pencil, the basic setup is super easy. You go add an object, Grease Pencil object, blank object, and I'm going to switch immediately to draw mode, switch to vertex colors, and normally we are good to go. Yeah. Well. So Grease Pencil, it will paint. Let me put the strength. Strength is like opacity. So it will draw on a plane. Typically, it will draw on a plane. So right now, it's drawing on a plane that's aligned with the camera. So if I go here, it paints here.
Yeah.
And what did I wanted to show? I want to show this. These are the points. This is the thing that resemble quill strokes the most. And there are subtle differences that are annoying, but basically this is the equivalent of our cylinder stroke. Let me make a simple, oops, wrong mode. Let me make a simple one to show something about the way it works. So if you notice, it doesn't work like in Quill. Here, it's always going to look around whatever angle you're looking at it. And the last one is just a point, and then that rounding is like a rendering aspect. It's done on the fly by Blender. I'm just mentioning this so that I'm going to show how it looks like when we export back to Quill, so that you understand the trade-off that you're going to make. Let me export that to Quill. So on the export side, and that is Grease Pencil. So on the export, it's going to pretend that it's making a zip, but it's just going to make a folder with that name and put the Quill files inside that folder. Similarly, there are options, probably not going to spend too much time. This is just what we're exporting. And in the import, it was what Quill layers we were importing. The Grease Pencil options here are configuring how the Grease Pencil strokes that we just made, how are they going to be translated to Quill paint strokes. And it's only cylinder or ribbon. And I'm going to talk about ribbon just later, but right now it's cylinder, and I'm keeping match round caps, which means that it's going to see that you have round caps, and it's going to generate Quill geometry to match the round caps. Otherwise, if it doesn't do that, it would just get a stroke that starts here, and that would be pretty ugly. So exported and back to Quill. And so I'm going to go here, this guy. Where are we? Do we have something? No. Oh, okay, because I tested the... Okay, that's interesting.
You were like further ahead with the timeline, right?
Right.
But you can just grab this. But you can just grab the span.
Yeah, I can grab it. I just want to. I switched back to Blender just to show that when I drew this, I was on frame 18, and so it created the first frame of the Grease Pencil object on frame 18, and that's why now when I'm in Quill, everything is moved. But it's not at frame 18, interestingly. Maybe there is a different thing. Maybe. Anyway, this is our Grease Pencil object. So it should be fairly, it should be the same. If we go, this is what I wanted to show. Normally, the Grease Pencil object started here, and this bunch of polygons are just to reproduce the ending. It does what you expect it to do, but just be aware that this is adding a bunch of triangles just to get this. It's a bit unfortunate, but anyway. It should respect transparency, and let's move back to Blender. So the main thing that we have in Quill not the main, but one of the main differences is that in Blender, the paint stroke, like the Grease Pencil stroke, is looking the same whichever way you look at it. And so because of this, they don't have any orientation, like per point orientation information, which is a problem when we try to, we can't paint a ribbon stroke in Grease Pencil like we do in Quill. So this is unfortunate, but so the way I did this is that when you select ribbon on the export dialog here, if you select ribbon, it will assume that the orientation of the stroke is with the flat side looking up. So what you would do, this is just to make ribbon strokes in using Blender Grease Pencil to make ribbon strokes in Quill. So you would go to draw mode, and in the view, I'm going to select the top view, which means that now when I'm drawing like this, I'm actually drawing on the floor plane, which means that now if I export this and I select the option ribbon, it's going to make a ribbon stroke, and the normal of the points is going to look the correct way. It's just a trick to be able to make ribbon strokes, because these cylinder strokes are pretty heavy. What would you use this for? One thing you can use this for is for making text. I use this a lot for making text or symbols. So yeah. Oh, now it's, yeah, that should work. So you can make like hand-drawn text, or if you have like a long, like if you want to make text that is maybe a bit more typed, like a bit like with a font, but you don't want it to be like an actual font. You can use.
So basically, what you're saying is, it's really hard to do that in Quill because you can't paint on a plane, but here you can. So if you import it, it's going to be perfectly flat, right?
Yes, that's the useful part is that you can draw with your graphic tablet, and it will show up on a perfect plane inside Quill. So if you have to draw something like that should go on a flat surface in Quill, you might want to draw it with Grease Pencil. It's pretty quick. Then you export, and then you import using the merge, like using the import function in Quill. And if you have a lot of text, like for credits, for example, or if you want to have text that looks like that is not hand-drawn, you can also use, this is just an example for demonstration, but so I'm going to use a text. Where is it? Right, let me select all of that. Wait, not what I wanted to do. So here I opened the Grease Pencil object in edit mode. I haven't talked about importing Quill directly into Grease Pencil. You can do this, but it will convert everything into these perfectly cylindrical paint strokes. So it will only look somewhat like your Quill drawing if your Quill drawing is only using the cylinder paint strokes. If you're using,
and it wouldn't have the inflate or deflate, right? It will be just even strokes.
Oh, no. It will respect the width of your.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah. It's just that
the ends will look different.
The ending will look normal, but you know how the ribbon if you import it as geometry, it's a ribbon. It has a flat side. It will not look like that. So if you have, I don't know, if you make a wall and you use a really broad ribbon stroke, here it will be horrible because it will be like the entire radius.
The orientation is random.
The orientation is, it's not even random. There is no orientation. It's going to be a perfect cylinder of your stroke that's supposed to be flat. I can show quickly how it looks. So this is a Blender text object. That you can edit, and maybe we pick a different font. Maybe Arial, right? Can go bad. Let's move to.
Let's pick something more complicated if you can, like something that has more curves.
Oh yeah, but okay. This was just to show that you can quickly. You go back to grease pencil.
Oh, grease pencil, trace it. Okay.
Yeah, you can trace stuff very quickly with this. Maybe, I don't know. This is just to, well, it won't look very good here. Wait. Maybe this? Okay, anyway, you get the idea. If you had something a bit more if you have like a logo or something, this can help you trace it pretty quickly. For me, well, so yeah, it's way too big, but anyway. Doing this, I find it useful for making things that should look like not fully hand-drawn, but also not too perfect.
Basically, you don't have to worry about scale and spacing because you can just trace that, but still give a personal twist to what you're doing. Yeah.
If you have this fighting here, you can just move the text. Let me see, Z. Yeah, you can move the text a little bit lower, and this brings me to something else. Is that when you use this trick, every single stroke is going to be perfectly on that floor plane. So let me actually move back to the grease pencil and let me show that if I make a stroke, then I make another stroke. For some reason in Blender, it looks good. It knows which stroke came after the first one. But I'm going to export this. Was there something else? Yeah. I'm going to export this, and this time I'm going to export as ribbon. Right? Okay. Let me switch. Okay. And ribbon, open. Oh. Right.
Z fighting.
Yes, Z fighting, because so they've been converted to ribbons, strokes, right? The ending is still the ending that I did, but yeah, these guys. So you can just tweak it, but this is just to illustrate that if you start to do something more complicated inside Blender, with the grease pencil, for example, you start to make something like a background and then you shade it inside. It will look decent in Blender because it knows which goes on top of what. But then when you import it here in Quill, everything will be exactly perfectly at the floor plane. I think if we show the floor plane, right, even the green one is even z-fighting with the floor plane.
This is still useful because you can just quickly nudge it a little bit up, right? So you still have like a very, like one thing that's impossible in Quill is to do exactly this, right? To draw something flat like this is not possible.
Yeah. And you can also nudge it inside Blender.
Yeah.
Wait. Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to...
So a quick question for you, right, because you have this. Is there a way to just export the text object to Quill, or no?
So you can, but it won't really do what you want it to do. What you can do, so you can export grease pencil stuff, right? So what you can do is use Blender tools to convert whatever you have to grease pencil, and then you export the grease pencil. But it doesn't always work because grease pencil has that great feature of the fill strokes, where in addition to simple strokes, you can draw like an arbitrary polygon, and it fills it for making like an area. We don't have that at all in Quill, but when you use Blender tools, so if you were to transform this text object into a grease pencil object, it will make the outline of the text in a stroke and the inside into a fill. And so when you export that to Quill, you will only get the outline.
But you can get the outline.
Yeah, you can get the outline. And then if you want to...
Because that's something really hard to do in Quill. It would take forever, right? So
yeah. The outline is also... Yeah, it's going to be like the number of points. So it depends. But yeah, it can be useful. But yeah, it will be pretty heavy, I think.
I was just wondering if that puts Sneaky and Yari out of commission with Quiver, but I think it doesn't.
Not yet, not yet. I've been trying to think about how we can actually, because Blender Python has access to the text, right? So I've been trying to come up with something where you have a Quill file which has all of your glyphs, and then it figures out using the Python Blender API that you have to put an X at this spot, and so it gets the X from your file and swaps it. I haven't really gone too far in this, just an idea for now. So, yeah.
We are at the 1 hour mark.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Let me know if you want to do 2 parts, if you don't have time, if you want to keep going. We can keep going, like I still have time, but let me know if you want to make a second part, then like if that's better for you.
I'm torn. Basically, I'm at the midpoint of what I wanted to show. So maybe...
Part 2 might make sense then, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
And maybe we can do part 2 next week.
Yeah, sure. It works for me.
Okay, then let's see. I think. Do you want to add to this right now, or do you think you're at a good spot where you can?
So I have one last point about the grease pencil that I can talk about. That I wanted to. I would have skipped it, but yeah. If we have a little bit more time. So the other thing you might want to experiment with grease pencil is the modifiers that we have that exist in Blender. So let me get rid of this again. And let me move this back to frame 0. So okay, draw mode. And right, so let's say you have a simple stroke. One thing you can do with Grease Pencil is add a Grease Pencil modifier. So there are just two modifiers I wanted to talk about. The noise modifier, which add noise to your stroke. So at this point, it's still a Grease Pencil stroke, but basically it animates your, what is it doing? Oh, move the offset scale. Right, what is it? And so random, 4 steps, strength 0, position, what is my, oh, I'm in 15 FPS. Oh, okay, I understand. That's because, okay, I can talk about this. When I imported the scene initially, the first one with the insect flying, that scene inside Quill was in 15 FPS. So here, it changed the Blender scene to be 15 FPS so that it matches. I think that's why when we exported back, the frame was kind of, might need to double check on that.
So when you have a Blender scene that is 30 FPS, right? And then you import a Quill scene that is 15, it changes the frame rate to 15?
Yes, I forgot to mention this, to mention what it does when you import. So when you import, it will consider two things. Actually, it will only consider from Blender, it will consider the length of your timeline. So by default, it's 250 frames. So it's going to take your Quill scene and it's going to convert it based on these 250 frames. So if you have loops, for example, it will loop until it gets to 250 frames, right? If you reduce this to 100 frame and you have a loop in there, it will loop until frame 100. That means that if you have something in your Quill scene that goes to frame 1000 or something, and here in Blender you only go to frame 250, it will cut your animation to frame 250. So you want to extend the Blender timeline to frame 1000 so that before importing, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that you get the whole thing. And yeah, it will change the frame rate.
And then, so let's say you've been animating in Blender or something, right? And then you're like, oh, I will do this effect in Quill, and you import like a Quill animation, but then you forgot that your frame rate is 12 frames per second or something. Then your whole Blender scene is then running at 12 frames per second. Right?
Yes.
The moment you import it. Okay.
Yeah, you have to be cognizant about that. It will change your frame rate. But you can just...
And then if you change it back to 30, then obviously the animation will play back much faster, right? The
Quill animation will play faster. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
okay, that's good to know.
Typically, you want to match the frame rates before you import or export.
Yeah.
For sure. So the noise modifier is just going to add some noise, procedural noise to your stroke. very simple. The thing I wanted to show is that right now this noise is added like procedurally by Blender at kind of render time. So if you export right now, it still only knows about the original stroke. So what you want to do to export that stroke with this little wiggle animation, you want to go to object mode, and inside object you have animation, and here you have bake object transform to grease pencil. So what that does is that it takes the procedural modifier, it asks you for how many frames you want to bake that, and it's going to bake it to grease pencil frame by frame drawing. I didn't mention it, but if you make a grease pencil frame by frame drawing and then you export that, it's going to export that to Quill correctly. So now we have this. Yeah, probably I should have mentioned this because it's kind of important, but you can totally make your, I don't know, maybe you make a storyboard or animatic in grease pencil, and then you export that to Quill, and it will show up in Quill. Let me make the other modifier real quick. Maybe I make a different grease pencil object, and draw mode. We're still here, and I'm in draw mode. Yes. Let me make some things. Actually, yeah, let's make 2 strokes. And this one, okay, this is completely random. The other modifier I wanted to talk about is the build modifier. So this modifier is going to reconstruct your grease pencil stroke in time. Oh, I started at this frame was.
Oh, in the drawing effect.
Yeah, the drawing effect. Over 100 frame, I think oh yeah, here you tell it the ranger frame you want the animation to run. So this is the same. This can be useful for number of things, but basically for making this effect. You can also import stuff from Quill as a grease pencil object, then apply this modifier, and then export back. So let me export right now. Oh, before I export, I want to go back to object mode and bake that to frames. So now these are grease pencil. Now these are grease pencil keyframes. And let me export. This modifiers, and let's keep cylinder, and yeah. So back. Okay, we're back, and here. Okay, right. So these are. Oh, I exported the camera. I don't know if you can see it. This I intend to talk about in the next stream then. And if we go to our frames, yeah, I did something weird here. Need to check about that. But basically it created a sequence for our grease pencil object, and then for our actual object inside. In grease pencil, you can have layers inside the grease pencil object, so that's why there is a micro hierarchy here. But these are our 2 objects, and yeah, they basically redo whatever we did in. Did they? Where's the other one? This one and this one.
Is it maybe that the one static layer is like on top? Do you want to hide that layer, the static layer?
That is curious. Why do I have so many layers of this? Oh yeah, you're right. Because okay, yeah, when you bake the modifier, it actually creates a second grease pencil object with the baked
That's
animation.
on top right now, right? Yeah.
So
you have to hide the 001, right? That one.
This one. Wait, so this one doesn't have any animation in it. This one does, and this one does, and this one doesn't. So this one we show, this one we show.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Right.
Huh. That's cool.
Okay, that's it. That's maybe showing it like this, it looks like a gimmick, but you can actually use this for making slow-moving things that grow, because that's, you know how the anim brush in Quill, you do have to limit it. Like even if I make something with the anim brush, it can be only 1 second long, right?
Yeah.
So you could do something like you could make a long stroke, and then inside Blender you make it grow over maybe 10 seconds or 20 seconds, which would be much harder to do in Quill.
Yeah, there's a trick that Yari showed in an earlier stream where you can draw but create frames at the same time in Quill.
Yeah.
Right, but it gets really big really fast.
Well, to be honest, it will be the same, because you basically have to...
Right, because this is also duplicates. Right?
Yeah, every frame is going to be a new drawing. Well, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is cameras, and more generally how animated things in Blender are converted to Quill. So in general, when we have an object that is supported by the exporter, it becomes a Quill object, and when it's animated, it's going to be converted to a baked transform animation. So for the example, I wanted to... the simplest example would be to just animate the camera using Blender keyframe animations. So hitting 0 to get into the camera. Let me change the Passepartout. And usually what I do, I go to view and I lock camera to view, so that now whenever I move the camera, it's actually, when I move in the viewport, it's moving the active camera. And yeah, so if I enable the auto keyframes, and I'm on frame 0, so it added the keyframe. Let's go to frame 10. Maybe I'll go here. This is, as always, I'm not doing any fancy stuff. This is just for illustration purposes. And let's go maybe here. I don't know. Let's say that's my animation for now. So I have these keyframes. They are in Blender. The default is also linear. Actually, I'm not even sure what the. Let's see on the graph editor. Yeah, so on the Blender side, this that's the curve for the position and orientation of the camera. So I'm going to export this. And this time, unlike what I've been doing so far, I'm going to export only the camera object. So the scene here is imported from Quill, and it also has a light, and the camera is actually from Blender. But here I'm selecting camera, so it's only going to export the camera, or any cameras. This way it's not going to export the mesh that I have imported from the Quill scene, because I want to merge the camera animation into the original scene. This guy.
Drum rolls. It did, I think. That was fast.
Yes, it was fast. And so at the bottom, as when we import stuff, it imported the Blender scene that I just exported. So there are two cameras actually, because the other one is the viewpoint from the imported scene. So when we import a Quill scene, it will convert the viewpoints into Blender cameras. So in the Blender scene, I actually had two cameras. I had one from the default Blender scene and one from the imported viewpoint. But these guys, we don't care. The one that I animated in Blender is this one. And as you can see, what it did is basically create a keyframe at every frame until there were no longer any frame afterwards. So where is it? I think is it this one? No, it has to be this one. Right, and let me go to the monitor. And if I go frame by frame, actually, do we have... Yeah. Yeah, it's not very visible, but you can see the trajectory, actually.
Yeah, I think if you look at the monitor here and then play it back. Yeah.
Oh, it's the wrong one. Okay, that's our little animation.
That's super useful, man, because this is the type of stuff, like especially like, animation curves, like when you do complex animations with the camera, that's like really hard in Quill, right?
Yeah, the point is, right now I just used a very simple animation, but I will explain just in a. Actually, let me do it. Basically, another example I wanted to show. So instead of manual animation, what we can do. Let me unlock this. What we can do is add a curve, or add a Bezier circle. I don't know if you can see it. Let me scale it to here. And then I'm going to...
Do you think you can change the background color to something darker so we can see the shot?
And that would be in... Where is it? Here. Like that, maybe?
Okay. Yeah, much better.
And, okay, let me take this camera, and I'm going to add a constraint called follow path, and then I'm going to select the Bezier circle and animate path. So animate path, what that does is it takes that curve and it takes the points and spread them over time. So by default, it's over 100 frames. And then my camera disappeared because it had a transform. So I'm going to go back to the camera and reset everything to 0. Right, so now the camera is really attached to the curve. So already if I go back to 0 and I press play, it's following the curve, but it's not looking at the center. So the way to fix this is to add another constraint that you can add, and you add what is track 2, right? And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little cube in the middle, set it to the center, go back to my camera and say that my my camera is tracking the cube. And so now if I this is not my active camera, so let me go to camera set. Okay. And now this is the animation inside Blender of this camera. And I'm going to export that. So same as before, hopefully it's not going to do.
Where would you change that? Like the duration of how it should circle around, like
yes.
Where you want to. So, do you have to edit the curves manually after, or can you change the frame duration?
Yeah, inside Blender you would go to the
way somehow.
You would go to the Bezier circle. So you would change that in the curve, because it's the curve that we have transformed into something animated. So we said that the curve is animated. So if I go back to the Bezier curve, and then I go to path animation here, this checkbox is what other. Nice. Am I cutting out again?
No, it's good.
So that checkbox is what was basically checked by the constraint on the camera object when we clicked animate path. So here it's a 100 frames. So we could change this to make it longer, make it shorter, and there is a curve corresponding to this, like the association between the frame and the time. It can also be changed. So you can do some time remapping of sorts if you want to play with that. But yeah, basically, nice. Let me just set this to 100. Export this. Hopefully, it's not going to to crash again. Only the camera and everything else should be good. So let's see. And okay, yeah. So let me delete all this, and then camera 3, import. So
we have a question here. We have a question here asking, like, can you also animate each element and export? I guess the question is any object you have in the scene.
Yes, so you can animate things that are going to be exported. Yes, I'm going to spend more time on this just after. But okay. Yeah, because there is some there's an extra subtlety or an extra bit for meshes that I will spend more time on later. So this one, the camera is the first camera that was animated. The one that I just animated is this one, I think. So if I go, this is the one. So if I play now, yeah, it's the orbit that we made. I don't know if you can see it here. It's basically following the orbit that we just animated.
Yeah, we can see it.
And yeah, so now an extra thing, like a different approach to this that I wanted to show is that you can So in Blender, we can attach the camera to a curve, right? So what you could do is draw the curve inside Quill. So maybe we start here and, oops, well, I'll need a frame for this layer. So yeah, let's call it that. And let's say, I don't know, maybe okay, that jumped a bit, but let's do something like this. So this is an option that I haven't shown yet, but when you import, so let me hide everything. Then I only have the curve, like I only have that stroke that I just painted. And I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it on top of it for now. And see you in Blender here. So now my file is saved with only that paint stroke. And what I can do is on the import side, on the import dialog, it's this one. I'm going to select curve here for the paint layer. So it's going to convert my paint layer into a curve object. Well, I don't care about the other stuff, but that should work. So here I have my new layer 0, which was the paint layer where I put the stroke on, and that's, I don't know if it's here. Did it change? Oh yeah, it changed the background again. Color. Okay. Right, so that's our curve. And so, yeah, we can do basically the same process. Where's the camera? Or I think that was, actually I can just change the curve it's attached to from the constraint. I think that should work. Instead of the Bezier circle, I'm going to take this one and animate path. You still have to do animate path. Oh, wow. This is what converts the curve into, basically it gives the curve a timeline. And so now the
and obviously instead of the cube, you can as the aim target of the quill strokes of one of the plants, right?
So yes, what you can do also is, let me go here, you can also animate the cube. So you can go, if I go back to 0 and I have this cube here, and let me, what is that? Timeline and auto keyframe. And basically right now, maybe it looks a bit weird, but basically I'm moving the cube. And since the camera is locked to the cube is centered. So basically that's my viewfinder. And let's move. So let's say I'm moving to here, and then I'm moving the cube here. I could also probably change that like the position of the cube. Let me check. Something like this. Well, going back to camera, and that cube obviously can be, I put a cube, but it could be an empty if you don't want to see anything. It could be transparent. It doesn't have to be in the scene, obviously. And right, so maybe when we get here, maybe I want to completely change. Oops. I guess probably the cube is right by the camera. Anyway, I hope that shows that shows the a use case of this. If I wanted to, I could.
Can you play it back to the camera? Can you play it back? While watching through the camera, yeah.
Yes, it's pretty crappy right now, but yeah, we're basically following the curve and watching the cube. At the very end.
So one question I have about the curve you imported, right? Obviously, because it was your hand moving through space, it has a lot of those bumps. Is there like automation in Blender where you can normalize the bumps off the curve? You know what I mean?
You mean smoothing it out, or?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. You can use whatever tools Blender has to change the curve. So right now I've selected the curve. I'm tabbing into edit mode, and these are the individual points of the curve. So yeah, you could completely change that. For example, maybe, I don't know, let me move to top view. Maybe here I'm not happy with how it's going. You could select a point and maybe enable that this and move
move
the
sense.
curve.
It's just a regular curve.
Yeah, it's a regular curve. There are actually many different curve types inside Blender. This is the curve that is basically just a polyline, just a series of segments. There are other curves that are more procedural and that you have to convert into this type of curve if you want to animate them. This is, yeah, if we go to curve, sorry, me. Yeah, you have nerves, you have path, and in newer Blender versions, there is another path thing, which is again different.
Yep.
But yeah, when going from Quill to Blender through the add-on, it's going to create the normal, like the appropriate curve object that allows us to make this, because that's basically the point of this import.
Yep.
And I think that's what I wanted to talk about for cameras.
You're 25 minutes in.
Okay, good. So let me delete all of this, the curve, this guy, that is really big. Okay, so next thing I wanted to talk about was animation round trip. By round trip, what I mean is starting in Quill, bringing things in Blender, using Blender for animation, and sending things back to Quill, which is basically more or less what I did here with the camera. But for objects, there are some different things we can do. So first, let me import the scene that I prepared. It's very simple. Objects. No, I want to import as mesh. What I'm going to explain is specific to the mesh importer. So very simple scene, but there's a trick. When we import as mesh, what it does is it creates a custom property inside the Blender data, so that each object, each mesh, remembers the Quill scene and the Quill layer and the Quill drawing that it came from. And when we export back, instead of exporting the wireframe or converting the mesh when it's coming from Blender originally, it's going to swap back the original Quill drawing from the file if it's still on your drive. That means that I can animate this as I just did with the camera and then export, and it's going to export like it's going to export using the original Quill strokes instead of creating something from scratch. So I thought an interesting way to showcase this was to use a different way to animate the object using physics. So let me add a grid, and let me rotate the grid, scale. Now I'm going to take, these are, I haven't shown the Quill scene, but these are 3 different layers. So there are 3 different drawings. If I go here, there is 3 different objects. Picking the object, going to physics, making it rigid body. This one, rigid body, this guy, rigid body, and the plane rigid body, but passive. I'm only showing the basic stuff. But now if I play, I have this. Okay, little simulation. Going to end this at frame 60 because basically it's going out. And that's it, basically. Now I'm going to export. Export Quill. Let me check. Yeah, I'm going to just
Wait, so question, after the simulation, you haven't done any baking, right? The baking
Yes.
will happen at the export time.
Yes. This is, in general, the way that it works. It will go frame by frame on the range that we're exporting. And for every frame, it will ask what is the transform of the object at that frame, and it will create a keyframe, a transform keyframe inside Quill with this transform, which means that because it's baking on the way out, it also means that if you need to change the curve, or if you need to change the way things are animated, your best shot is to go back to Blender, change things there, and export back, because it's baked frame by frame basically. So objects. Okay, let's check it out. And we were in here, and objects open. Okay, so the grid is a Blender object. So it has been converted to like this sort of wireframe thingy. And if I play the animation, right, we have physics.
That's nice.
And yeah, as I mentioned, each object. So yeah, these are my original layers, and they have transform keyframes, and that's still the the camera that I animated earlier. And the grid is a normal object. Yeah, so now just need to talk about let me go back to Blender. Yeah, so physics works. usually what you can do is take an object, take the mesh inside Blender, put it inside an empty and animate the empty, or animate the object. Normally, if it's animation like that at the first level, it will convert if you animate the object. There are some things that don't work. What doesn't work, and I'm pretty sad about for now, but I'm working on it, is attaching objects to bones of armatures. That currently doesn't quite work. Like, I'm working on it. So yeah, you can experiment with it, but it won't export correctly. It won't allow you to create the skeleton in Quill and then animate it using the armature system in Blender. But it is on the roadmap, let's say. What else doesn't work?
Like any types of modifiers, like if you have a twist modifier or something, all that type of deformation wouldn't translate, right?
Yes,
You
perfect.
can't
Yeah.
make it
That's
and out or anything,
Very
right?
very good remark. It is basically considering the paint layer as an object, as a rigid body, as in physics, and it's working at that level. It's working at the drawing level. So
Yeah.
below the layer, but if you start changing, if you go in edit mode and you start changing the points, it will not translate at all. What it will do...
Yeah, and also if you make this a soft body, for example, it has like a jiggle or something,
Yes.
It's not translated.
No.
Yeah.
Anything that changes the shape of the object is not going to work. You will see it in Blender. It will appear as if it were working, but on the export, it's taking back the original Quill layer and drawing and swap it back. So it's going to it's going to use the original object.
So the movement will translate.
Yes.
Even if you make it a soft body, but then it will be a rigid body in Quill. Right?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
So I want to talk about key mesh a bit. Here, these objects are converted to simple objects. Let me think about what's the best way to show this. Actually, I'm going to go straight into the animation thing. So let me import this other scene. Are we in Quill? Yes. This guy. What is that? Oh, yes. Maybe I should show it what it looks like in... Well, you can imagine what it looks like in Quill. It's
like this.
It looks like this. It is one paint layer. Well, it's two paint layer. This guy is one paint layer, and this is one paint layer. But this second paint layer, called mouth, has about 10 different drawings. So 10 different keyframes, one after the other, on the Quill timeline.
When you say keyframes, it's a frame-by-frame animation, right?
Yes, frame-by-frame animation. Yeah. And so there are mouth shapes. These visemes, as they're called. So key mesh. Here I have installed and activated the key mesh add-on. It's a separate add-on done by someone else, and it's a way to compact multiple objects into a single object, and it's built for stop motion workflows. So it's very friendly to what we're doing, because for the frame by frame animation we do in Quill is basically stop motion. And for lip sync or eye motion, like eye blinks and things like that, where we are replacing the whole part instead of just morphing it into something else, it's the perfect tool. What it does when I select the mouth, these 10 drawings, these 10 keyframes that I had in Quill are translated here as 10 keyframes. And if I open the key mesh add-on interface, they're translated into this list of drawings. Just to clarify, without the key mesh add-on, what it does is create an empty for the layer, and then it adds all of the drawings as children of that empty. And for the animation, it basically animates the visibility of of each drawing. It does the same for this, but this gives us a much more natural UI for playing with the timing of these, the timing of the drawings. So this is essentially the equivalent of the Quill timeline, except that now we have all of the tools of the Blender timeline. So I could take these 2 keyframes and move them here, or I could copy and paste. I could select all of the keyframe and stretch in time to make things go slower. And because the swapping thing works at the drawing level, when we export this back, it's going to take these drawings and swap them back with the original drawings from the original Quill scene, if that makes sense. So for lip sync, basically the idea would be to have these shapes. These are your reference mouth shapes. I'm going to delete all of the keyframes. These are just keyframes. These are just saying, at that frame, I want to show that drawing, but the real thing are the drawing. It's something that is a little bit, it's a little bit mixed in Quill. There is not so much that clear difference between the drawings and the keyframes. But here we have that list of drawings that we can then redistribute, reorganize on the timeline. You can double click on these layers to rename them so that you can make it easier to select the right one. Maybe I'm not going to do it.
This is huge, though. I think I don't know if Gian is on this call, but no, he's not. But yeah, for his 9 Mara, I think this could have been like ridiculous level of life saving.
So the work,
because in Quill, yes, it's a little bit difficult to swap timing and stuff, right? Because then you have to copy the frame into a new frame. You have to create a new frame, copy back. Yeah,
in Quill, so basically you have a bunch of ways to do it. But I think that one way that many people use is that when they're doing their lip sync, or when they need a drawing that they already made, they create a new keyframe and then they copy the content of the first keyframe into that new keyframe, which is doing a full duplication and increasing the file size. Here it's completely different. It's saying, on that frame, I want this drawing, but the drawing already exists. So it's not changing the file size. It's just referencing the right drawing.
So I do that actually in Quill too, referencing by using spans.
Exactly. So that's the other. That's the other way you could do it.
But it's really difficult to adjust.
Yeah. So if you wanted to do this kind of thing where you go at that frame and you specifically want one drawing, you would have to create like a 1 frame long clip and offset it to the right frame, and then do that for every frame almost. So yeah, it's much more convoluted.
Yeah, any timing adjustments, any adjustments are very difficult because every span becomes dependent on the previous frame, right? So that's why, you know, you have to be very committed on the timing, and you're not as flexible the longer the animation gets, the less flexible you become.
Oh yeah, because if you need to change something at the beginning, then everything else is changed. Whereas here you can just select the frames, move them around. It's way more flexible. Something I haven't shown is when you have an audio file inside Quill, it will also show up here in the video sequencer, and this you can. So you probably won't hear my audio here, but there is a setting.
We might have heard it. You played it back, and I heard something, so we might hear.
So just to show, there is this setting. It's on the main timeline panel, where you enable scrubbing. This way, when you
1, 2, no.
When you scrub on the timeline,
you're right.
Okay. So when you scrub, it's playing the it's replaying the audio, which let you figure out the phonemes better. So yeah, you do your lip sync. This is it's still a manual way, but I think it's still much easier to do this way than in Quill. So you would go here, you would say, okay, this is a O. So for this, you click on the little circle. I click, then this number is the number of time this drawing appears in the timeline. So it created this keyframe. I move a bit. Maybe this is, I don't know. I'm doing completely non-realistic, but just to show what you would do. Here maybe you have another phoneme, then it ends. Then from here we're back into a more neutral pose. Then you go here and we select, I don't know, this guy, this guy, and maybe here we're back to neutral. So now I have these seven keyframes, and the ones that are duplicated. So for example, this BMP neutral mouth shape. It's just so it's not a full duplication at the stroke level. It's just saying I want this drawing to appear on that frame, basically like you would do with clips. The difference is that it's not actually clips. So when we're in the Quill timeline, it won't appear as clips. It will just be normal keyframes. Maybe we can export that and see it in action.
Yeah, that would be great.
Here and this here. Yes, okay. Okay, and did I switch? Yes. And that was this guy. Yes, we're here. Oh, yeah. So it looks like this. These the white are the frame hold, obviously. And so I'm going to just go frame by frame Wait, let me put that here. Right. So yeah, toy example, but I think it shows the principle, basically.
Super efficient. Super
Oh wait,
cool.
wait. Okay, I didn't have my my headset, my ear, so I didn't hear if you said anything.
I said it's super cool. Yeah, I said it's super cool and extremely efficient workflow. It's nice. I love it.
There is one thing I forgot to mention. Well, it's more of a practical concern. You want to draw your stuff at the origin, so that you will be able, when you animate them, then you will be able to attach them to the face more easily. And these guys, so on these, I kept the cue about which phoneme they are representing, because they are drawings. Actually, I don't think I wonder if that would work. Right? If I go and kill this. Right. So because they are the same drawing, I just needed to double check there. But as you can see, it's not clips, it's referenced drawing. So whatever I do on this frame, let's say I do this, oops. When I go back to this frame, it's still there because they're referencing the same drawing. This is something that you can't really do inside Quill, but it works like that. So just...
Oh, wait. So it's actually referencing the same drawing.
Yeah, it's referencing the same drawing.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, because in Quill, it would just treat it as a unique frame. Right?
Yes, yeah.
What you're saying is, in this case, if you delete it or if you put the circle in every frame where you use the same shape, the circle will appear.
Yes, exactly.
That's crazy.
So
you manipulated how Quill works.
No, actually, this is how the file format is defined. And Quill, the UI of Quill is showing something. It's showing like an abstraction layer on top of that model. Which is more like the model is more permissive. Like it's more, how to say, it's
flexible.
It's lower level.
It's flexible
basically.
because you basically modified the JSON in a way that it's treating each reuse of the frame. Obviously, if you create a new frame, that's going to be a unique frame. But if you create an empty frame and you copy this frame into the new empty frame, it would still work the same way, right?
That's something we cannot do in Quill. Is copying the frame itself. Like we have to copy the content into a new keyframe. Yeah, the strokes into a new keyframe.
So you're saying then it would break. Then it would not work anymore.
Well, it would be a separate. Yeah, it would be a separate thing. And so I mentioned this just to say that you can keep the cues here because it's quite easy to remove them. You just have to remove them once, and they are going to be removed on every frame that has this mouth shape. Whereas if you do it the copy way, you would have to remove them everywhere.
I mean, there's a way. There's a select in all frames option, and then because you see that they're separated from the mouth, you can just select once and then delete it, right? So,
True.
But I know what you mean. Like if they would overlap and stuff like that.
Yeah, or if you need or if you need to change yeah, as you mentioned, maybe your mouth is wrong or you need to change something. You will change
Yeah.
it once, it will change it everywhere. Basically,
That's pretty
just
cool.
like clips, but simpler,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. It's
Um,
super nice.
yeah.
It's super powerful.
And
Super crazy. I love it. I love this new function in Quill. It's crazy good.
so yeah, it's based on the file format. The file format is actually it goes even further. It doesn't even have a concept of keyframes. It just has every frame, and for every frame, it says which drawing should be visible. So that forget, like, it's not important, but the file format is pretty lower level, which means that this works in Quill, it works in IMM Player. It's really, like, it's how Quill works at the file format level. And the UI is built on top of that model, but changes it a little bit.
It's crazy because this way you could actually just have your own set of different types of mouth layers, right? Like cartoony one and more photorealistic one or something, and then just have all the Visiums you need, and then whatever you need, you can just copy it on top of that and do all the animation in Blender and export it back, right? Which is super powerful.
Yeah, you mean
I think it's nice to go after your Visiums into the detail. You can draw your mouse beautiful.
Yes.
After the Visiums, you can change it later.
Yeah,
So
which is crazy.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. You can change it. You could, I think, you could have several of them. Let me think. Also, just as a general comment, I want to say that I feel that I've barely scratched the surface of what's possible using this. So if you have other ideas or experiments to do, I'm interested in hearing.
Yeah, I think one thing that could be useful, and I made some progress in that, but I am not a coder, so I suck at this. But I used Claude to create shapes, like perfect spheres and stuff. I know, Yari, you showed us like the almost perfect sphere, how to build it manually. But what I did, Joan, I brought like one stroke. I did one Quill file with one stroke, ribbon stroke, and I used that and use Claude to bend it into like a perfect sphere, right? And duplicate it. So I have like a perfectly lathed sphere, which I can light much better than like a sphere stroke, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I know.
And I used to make those spheres manually, right? But I did it via code. So if you have any ideas there,
so I do
build like
I do, because
stuff,
I've done the same. So just to that's basically it for my presentation, by the way. So to answer
your 56 minutes.
Perfect. To answer your question, I have done the same. The way the add-on is architectured, there is like a core part which is not dependent on Blender, which is just reading and writing the Quill files. And then on top of that, there is the Blender stuff. But that means that core part can be called from other Python code that's not necessarily in Blender. So I did experiment with this, just like you mentioned. I have a bunch of Python scripts to make perfect spheres, perfect circles, partial spheres for pupils, for example, or perfect gradients. My problem is basically, how do I present these features in the add-on? It's basically my question. I'm not sure how to present them in a way that makes sense, or in a way that they are easy to use or easy to find. Right now, the add-on is just import-export dialog. I guess the next step would be to have a panel like this with extra functions. The other thing that I've experimented with is taking an existing Quill scene, running through all of the layers, all of the strokes, doing something, and saving back. So that's, for example, I don't know, changing all of the cylinder strokes into ribbon strokes, or changing all of the color to some other color, or I don't know. There's so much stuff we could do here. Or something I haven't tried, but I'm pretty sure is possible, is taking all of the cylinder strokes and replacing the, like, you know how the cylinder stroke is basically has an heptagon cross section. So it's basically right. It's basically an heptagon volume, a sweep volume. So you could replace the faces with ribbons. That should work. And then you could delete all of the parts of that, or of the original cylinder, that are no longer visible as an optimization thing. I don't know. There are so many things that I don't even.
And you can also light it differently, right? Like it's not treating as a single stroke anymore.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Exactly. Instead of doing the duplicating thing where you duplicate the cylinder just to have the other one in the back that is a different color, you could just paint the 3 or 4 faces that are in the back a different color.
That's crazy. Yeah, that would be crazy for sure. I was also thinking about, like, once I did the shape thing with the perfect sphere and stuff, I didn't find a solution, but I'm sure you could. But I was thinking about Yari's and Sneaky's Quiver plugin, right? Not plugin, but application where you can create your own font set. And where my mind immediately went is that if you can read out, and like, you know how you have the TTF files where you see the entire font, and then out of that font, you can somehow convert them into ribbon brushes, right? And then create your own font set that you could use in Quiver. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I do.
Yeah.
So the fonts themselves, usually true types, open types, they're already vectors based. Yeah. So you could create strokes that perfectly resemble the original shapes. I think the difficulty in this is at the end to make, so say you have a bunch of text to type. It's the very end. How do you switch the text with the... Oh, okay. What you mean is converting on the fly I don't know. Basically, you're going to have like the entire glyph set as Quill strokes, but then you still have to go and replace the actual glyph on the text that you typed. And so you still have all of the kerning, all of the typesetting to re-implement basically on the way out, I think.
Yeah, I think the kerning and stuff, that's always like a very complex problem. But currently, I think I converted a Google font for Quiver, but I did this like the entire alphabet manually, right? Like I drew it with a ribbon brush the most efficient way possible, right? But then what I did with Claude is like I had this ribbon brush stroke in this Quill file, and I uploaded the JSON, and then I sent an image of all the entire alphabet and said like, hey, can you recreate each letter with a ribbon brush stroke and save a new JSON? It did something, but it wasn't that, right? But I'm not a coder, so I don't know what it takes to do that. But I wonder with the use of AI, you can actually turn images like an alphabet into proper ribbon brush alphabet strokes. Because what you said, like with the vectors, it's not gonna take serifs and like different shapes into consideration and only the curves, right? Or would you be able to convert it into the exact font through the vectors?
I think so inside Blender, you can have these fonts like I did last time and convert them to Gris Pencil.
Right.
Gris Pencil is basically curves, so I think it should work, but as I mentioned, it's only the outline that it's creating.
Yeah.
So you still have to somehow figure out a way to, yeah. The other thing that is quite important, I think, is people are going to want to create their own alphabets, and that has to be easy to import in a way that the add-on knows where the characters are. I think in Quiver, it's every glyph has to be its own layer, which is maybe quite difficult or long to set up. My ideal would be that you have one layer and you have maybe using the grid that we have in Quill, and you put one glyph on each square of the grid. And then there is we can have some convention between each other that maybe one layer is one plane, like one, in Unicode, they call them planes. One layer is one Unicode plane, so that we know exactly the glyph matches this, like that bunch of strokes in Quill matches this glyph in Unicode. Then we have a mapping that's good, and then we can do the swapping. But it's still pretty complex, I think, on the swapping itself.
Yeah, just because fonts is something that's fairly difficult to actually do efficiently in Quill, right? So I used Yaris and Sneaky's Quiver quite a bit for writing text and stuff. And it is like once you set it up, it's pretty straightforward, right? But then the setting up part, it takes a long time, right? Especially if you want other font styles. But it's good to hear that you can actually export the outline. That's already pretty huge that you can actually do that. Yeah. Thank you, Joan, for running these two-part classes. This was fantastic insight into your add-on, and looking forward to seeing more from you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.